programs and actions to help address the unaccompanied minors who are coming across the border and making it less of an incentive to come, including also continuing to implement the Central American Minors Program so kids can apply and people under 18 can apply from in-country.
Does the president see the vice president's role in stewardship of this issue, dealing with more than diplomacy and dealing with some of the operational issues that are being dealt with along the border with the Bureau and Border Patrol and HHS?
No, that's a role that, of course, the Department of Homeland Security is playing. Alan Mayorkas, the secretary, who has a great deal of experience dealing with challenges at the border and implementing it. Now we also have a Secretary of Health and Human Services who is in place, who can work in partnership, and they have oversight, as you know, over a number of the shelters, and that's a key part of the partnership. But the vice president's role is really focused on the Northern Triangle.
Go ahead. Following up there, if it's such a pressing issue, I know you've been asked this in the room before, but it's such a pressing issue, why hasn't the administration named a CBP commissioner or an ICE director yet?
Those are certainly important roles and ones that we are eager to fill. I don't have an update on the personnel there, but we also have a number of experienced leaders, including the Secretary of Homeland Security, who had served as Deputy Secretary in the past, and others throughout the agencies who are implementing our work on a daily basis.
Just last week you were asked if there was a consideration for immigrant in particular to be in either of those spots. You said you talked to the president about that. You had that conversation with him. Does he think that's important?
I don't have anything more about what characteristics will go into the personnel other than somebody who's qualified and, of course, prepared to implement as quickly as possible. But we don't have a shortage of talented, experienced, qualified personnel addressing these issues. That's not the biggest challenge we're focusing on right now. The biggest challenge is expediting processing, ensuring we have more shelters available. We've made some progress in those areas, but there's still certainly more work to be done.
Can I ask you too quickly just on the Georgia law? I had a conversation with the lawyer for Representative Cannon, who was arrested there outside Governor Kemp's office, and he said over and over he thought the Justice Department needed to get involved in what was going on in Georgia. The president last week said that the Justice Department was looking into options, that he was looking into options. Can you update us on whether if there's anything to update us on, Justice Department looking into options to get involved?
There just wouldn't be from here. It's an independent Justice Department, so I would certainly refer to them on any plans they have.
And any response from the White House to get involved? I mean, any update on whether the White House in any way will respond to the Georgia law?
Well, beyond the Department of Justice?
I mean, so is that it will only come from the Justice Department?
I don't really understand your question.
I guess the president said he was looking into his options. So
Yeah.
Are there any other options beyond what we would see from the Justice Department?
Well, I think there's one category, right, of legal action. We'd leave that in the Department of Justice hands. They're an independent agency, right, in that sense. They'll make independent decisions, I should say. The president, I think, was referring broadly to the importance of continuing to advocate for the expansion of voter access and the expansion of making it easier for people to use their civic duty to elect officials. So there are obviously pieces of legislation that are working their way through Congress. That's a way he'll continue to be involved. He will continue to communicate with and work with leaders like Stacey Abrams and others who are, implementing grassroots activism across the country. So there are a lot of roles the president can play. I would just put it in a different category than whether there's a Department of Justice legal step, because that would be up to the Attorney General.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. On the issue of voting rights, the president said that he would support Major League Baseball moving the All-Star Game out of Atlanta. Now a similar bill has passed the state Senate in Texas. So does the president believe that Texas businesses should move out of the state or boycott the state if this bill is signed into law?
Well, first he didn't call for businesses to boycott. Businesses have made that decision themselves, of course. He also was not dictating that Major League Baseball move their game out of Georgia. He was conveying that if that was a decision that was made, that he would certainly support that. And that's true in the context of the remarks he made in that interview.
What does the president believe the responsibility of businesses is in this debate?
They're in terms of activism or taking...
When it comes to voting rights bills in the states where they reside and where they call home, what does the president believe the responsibility is of businesses when it comes to this issue of voting rights?
Well, the president has made his view clear, that he believes that he has major concerns about the bill passed in Georgia. He's consistently argued it should be easier and not harder to vote. And he believes that making it a criminal act to deliver water to people waiting in line is not making it easier. We're also not calling from here for specific actions from businesses.
Can you tell us a little bit more? The president said this morning that his infrastructure plan would create 19 million jobs. Can you explain a little bit more about how the White House came up with that figure?
It's not our figure, it's actually a figure by Moody's.
And then on another subject, is the president aware of the reporting and the investigation into Congressman Matt Gaetz? And does he believe that the congressman should resign?
I don't think we have any further comment. I'd refer you to the legal authorities on that. Go ahead.
Can I ask you about the funding and the rescue plan for Medicaid expansion, specifically whether the administration is reaching out to the dozen states that have not expanded to encourage them to take that funding, and how flexible you're likely to be on any waiver requests for things like adding health savings accounts or work incentives that some states say that would have to be included in order for them to expand?
It's a great question. Obviously, the president is certainly supportive of and an advocate for states expanding Medicaid, access to Medicaid. He thinks it's a way to ensure more people are covered in states and have access to affordable health care. But in terms of flexibility, I'll have to talk to Jean, who I want to get in here and talk to you guys soon, too, about any specifics there about those discussions with states.
But are you doing anything in terms of reaching out to them, any outreach campaigns in general? Aside from whether you're talking specifics about waivers yet, but
Yeah.
just doing anything, doing a lot of outreach on the other components of the ACA and the rescue plan in terms of educational campaigns. Is there anything going on specifically on the Medicaid expansion?
We're in touch with leaders and governors about all components of the implementation, and that's something. And I just referenced Jean because he's overseeing that effort. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. On Russia again and the international payment system, is the White House still seriously considering disconnecting them from that payment system, that SWIFT system? Is that still a live round?
Let me see, Jen, if I have anything specifically on this. I know we've talked about this a little bit in the past. I don't know if I have anything new on this. I'm happy to talk to our national security team and see if we have a specific.
Great. And then is there any update on the budget preview document that the White House was talking about putting out?
We expect it to be soon, but not today or this weekend. So rest easy.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. I have a couple different questions. I wanted to ask about the president's Easter plans, because he said on his phone call with faith and family community leaders that he would probably get together with family for Easter because they've all been vaccinated. So what kind of message is that sending if he's asking Americans not to have small gatherings until the 4th of July, but he's saying he'll be with family for Easter? So can you clarify how big family?
Well, I don't have a specific number of family members, but I can assure you that the president strives to be a role model in every aspect of how he's living in this difficult time we're all going through. He obviously has a wife he's been married to for some time. He has a couple grandkids who he sees when he goes to Delaware, but it's a limited group and certainly not the big Irish Biden clan that many of you have seen throughout the course of his time in public office.
His immediate family have been vaccinated.
I don't have any more updates on his immediate family. Did you have another question?
I did want to ask about one question about Congressman Matt Gaetz. Is the White House concerned that since he sits on the Judiciary Committee, which oversees the Justice Department, which is investigating him, should he at least step down from that committee as that example?
Those are decisions that we'll let leaders in Congress make. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. A couple quick questions. During the pandemic, we've seen deaths of despair increase, and there's concern with regards to the designation of fentanyl analogs as Schedule 1. I'm hearing from folks on Capitol Hill that because the substance expires on May 1st, they're worried that if the that Scheduling 1 of fentanyl analogs doesn't get renewed by May 1st, that more of that drug could come across the southern border. I know Manchin and Portman have a bill on this.
Yeah.
Does the president support making analogs permanently Schedule 1?
It's a really good question. I know that in terms of addressing the flow at the border, that would certainly be the State Department to address. I'll have to talk to our legislative team about kind of our role in this legislation.
Okay, cool. follow-up. And then, the president had voiced his support for MLB making a decision about the All-Star game in Georgia. I'm wondering, when can we expect a final determination from the president about the United States participating in the Beijing Olympics, given that he said the Chinese president doesn't have a democratic bone in his body?
Well, I think the U.S. Olympic Committee would play a big role in
And on Major League Baseball here in the United
He
States.
actually didn't. I think, I don't know if you heard the answer that happened a few minutes ago, where we addressed this, and I answered the question. So, and I give a little more context, but maybe you weren't paying attention to that part. Let's go to go ahead in the back.
I have a question and one from a colleague who cannot be with us. The first one is, we've seen a surge of cases in Canada, in Quebec, and Ontario in particular. We repeat that the best way to break surges are vaccinate fast